55 years later, a surprising Uhura moment in Star Trek. The original series is explained by Strange New Worlds. More than half a century after Star Trek, the original series first aired, it's easy to assume that everything there is to say about the show has already been said. Every phaser blast has been analyzed. Every log entry parsed. Every glance exchanged on the bridge has been GIF-ed, debated, and immortalized. And yet, somehow, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds has managed to do something remarkable. It's reached back across 55 years of canon and quietly explained a moment involving Lieutenant Nyota Uhura that fans barely realized needed explaining. It's not a retcon. It's not a rewrite. It's something far more elegant. It's context. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The Uhura moment that always felt different. In the original series, Uhura is often remembered through a modern lens as a groundbreaking character held back by the limitations of 1960s television. That assessment isn't wrong, but it also overlooks something important. Nichelle Nichols' Uhura wasn't just symbolic. She was competent, composed, and emotionally guarded in a way that set her apart from many of her contemporaries on the Enterprise bridge. One particular moment has lingered strangely for decades. Uhura's reaction to danger and loss, especially when compared to the more openly emotional responses of characters like McCoy or even Scotty. Take episodes where the Enterprise is under existential threat, crew members are lost, or Starfleet ideals are pushed to the brink. Uhura remains steady, professional, almost distant, not cold, but controlled. Even when the situation is deeply personal, she rarely lets the cracks show. For years, fans chalked this up to writing limitations. Uhura wasn't given enough focus. Her inner life simply wasn't something the original series explored in depth. But Strange New Worlds suggests a far more intentional explanation. Strange New Worlds reframes Uhura entirely. From its very first season, Strange New Worlds made a bold, creative choice. It didn't just modernize Uhura, it centered her. Celia Rose Gooding's portrayal gives us a younger Nyota Uhura who is brilliant, empathetic, musically gifted, and deeply sensitive. But just as importantly, it shows us someone carrying grief, trauma, and uncertainty long before she ever sets foot on Kirk's bridge. This Uhura feels everything. And that's exactly the point. In Strange New Worlds, Uhura's emotional openness isn't a weakness, it's a stage. A beginning. We see her struggle with loss, especially the death of her family, and question whether Starfleet is even the right place for someone who feels as deeply as she does. She doubts herself. She wonders if she belongs. She wrestles with the cost of connection in a universe that so often demands emotional sacrifice. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we watch her learn how to compartmentalize. The missing years between feeling and control. This is where the retroactive explanation clicks into place. The Uhura we meet in the original series isn't less emotional than her Strange New Worlds counterpart. She's more practiced. She's someone who has already learned, sometimes painfully, that being the calmest person in the room can save lives. Strange New Worlds shows us the emotional groundwork for that transformation. Each crisis she survives. Each goodbye she's forced to accept. Each moment where her empathy becomes both a strength and a burden. All of it contributes to the composed officer we later see serving under Captain Kirk. So when Uhura, in the original series, maintains her composure during moments that would rattle almost anyone else, it's no longer a gap in characterization. It's a result of lived experience. She's not detached. She's disciplined. One scene, finally explained. There's a particularly striking example in the original series where Uhura continues her duties at communications even as chaos unfolds around her. Ships destroyed, lives lost, command decisions made in seconds. She doesn't freeze. She doesn't panic. She doesn't demand explanations. She simply does her job. For decades, that moment read as functional television storytelling. Someone had to keep the plot moving. Someone had to relay the signal. But through the lens of Strange New Worlds, that scene becomes something else entirely. It's a woman who has already learned that if she allows herself to feel everything in that moment, the ship doesn't survive. The crew doesn't survive. And neither does she. The emotional restraint that once felt like underwritten characterization now feels like hard-won professionalism. Nichelle Nichols' Uhura, reconsidered. This reframing also does something deeply important. It honors Nichelle Nichols' original performance rather than overwriting it. Nichols often spoke about how intentional Uhura's dignity and composure were, even within the constraints of the era. She wasn't meant to be passive. She was meant to be unshakable. At the time, that alone was revolutionary. Strange New Worlds doesn't contradict that vision, it completes it. By giving Uhura a fully realized emotional arc before the events of the original series, the modern show retroactively enriches Nichols' performance. What once appeared subtle now feels layered. What once felt quiet now feels deliberate. Uhura wasn't ignored by the narrative. She was protecting herself. Emotional survival in Starfleet. One of Strange New World's greatest strengths is its understanding of Starfleet as not just a place of exploration, but of emotional endurance. Characters aren't just tested by alien threats, they're tested by grief, guilt, and the long shadow of responsibility. Uhura's journey fits perfectly into that theme.